Hello BookTube, Sarah here and welcome to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with my November 2018 month-end wrap-up and stats. To begin with, I usually don't apologize for this, but I am sorry if you get weird lighting. The sun has decided to come out for the first time in weeks, and it of course does it as soon as I sit down to record. So I apologize if there's any weird glares or anything at all like that. It's kind of coming in and out of the clouds outside, so we just have to make do, people. So my month-end wrap-up and stats. So what I do, as I've been doing for the last few months when I do these, is I will talk about my stats for the entire month, because I really do love doing my stats every month, but I will only be kind of talking about the books that I read between the 16th and the 30th. So kind of telling you guys a bit more about them. I did talk about all these books in all of my weekly vlogs, but this is kind of a more concise little wrap up here. So we'll start off with my stats. So in the month of November, I finished 31 books. That is by far the best I have done in a single month in forever. No joke. Like when I started on Goodreads in 2016, I think my entire total for the year was something like 87 books. And then in 2017, I upped the game quite a bit and I got up to over 200. But now I am at, I don't think I wrote it down here, but I'm at 267 books read for the year so far as of November 30th. I am 27 books beyond my goal. So my goal was originally set at 240 books and I've read 267. So I've read 27 more than my goal and I'm at 111% of my goal. So that's pretty awesome. I am probably going to up it again next year. We will see where I end up at the end of this year and go from there. So for star ratings, I read 4 3-star books, 9 3.5-star books, 15 4-star books. I had a lot of 4-star books this month. 1 4.5-star book and 2 5-star books, and both those 5-star books came the second half of the month. I read 16 contemporary romance novels, no surprise there, 4 romantic suspense, 2 chick lit / women's fiction, 2 nonfiction history novels, 2 mysteries, a historical romance Regency, another historical romance American West. I do like breaking them down. A paranormal romance, a historical fiction novel, and a general fiction novel. I like to break down the Harlequin imprints that I read every month to see how many out of each I do read. I read 2 desire, 2 intrigue, 1 historical, 1 romance, 1 romantic suspense, 1 special edition, 1 love inspired, and 1 love inspired suspense. I read 29 books geared towards adults, 1 book geared towards a YA audience, and 1 middle grade. 1 book published in the 1930s, 2 books published in the 1980s, 1 book published in the 1990s, 1 published in the 2000s, 16 published between 2010 and 2017, and 10 books published this year in 2018. So I love seeing that 2018 number be a little bit higher because it is nice to be reading newer books. I read 14 books on audio, 12 ebooks, excuse me, and 5 print or paperback books. So that's exciting. I read 30 novels and 1 novella. 22 of the books, or out of all the books that I read, 22 of them were part of a series and 9 were standalone novels. Of those 22 that were part of a series, I started 2 new series, so that's not too bad. I read 18 books that were part of ongoing series, so that's always exciting. And I completed 2 series, which is super exciting. See what I mean about the lighting, you guys? Oh, sorry. I'll just apologize now and be done with it. I read a grand total of 8,890 pages. Insane. Grand total of 296 pages per day. Granted, to be fair, I was off this month from work. I have been off for the month of November. So that makes a big difference in the amount that I got to read. That is really starting to bother me. So I'm going to try and lean back just a little bit. So yeah, so that's pretty exciting. So let's get into all the books that I finished between the 16th and the 30th. So I'm not going to get too much into all of these, but I'm just going to kind of give you guys a little bit of information. So the first one, and this is in order that I read them, was Chasing Christmas Eve by Jill Shalvis. This is a contemporary romance novel, book number 4 in the Heartbreaker Bay series. It was narrated on audio by Karen White, published in 2017. It has an average rating on Goodreads of 4.16 stars. I gave it 4.5 stars. This was really cute. It was about a woman who is a YA author, and she writes under a pseudonym, and she decides to take a vacation to find her muse because her publisher is expecting another book in the series, and she just doesn't know what she wants to write. So she heads to San Francisco and she meets a guy, and the story kind of goes from there. It's a really, really fun series, and I really do enjoy it. Excuse me, quite a bit. And the next one I read was Proof of Innocence by Leona Worth. This is a inspirational romantic suspense. This is the love-inspired novel. I'm going to sit back just a little tiny bit because that is driving me crazy. Book number 6 in the Capital Canine Unit series. This is love-inspired suspense novel number 477. I do give what number they are in the imprint. Not that it matters. I just think it's fun because I do keep track of which ones I've read. Published originally in 2015. Average rating on Goodreads of 4.28 stars. I gave it 3.5 stars. This one was good, not spectacular. I mean, you know, I gave it 3.5 stars. I mean, that's a little bit higher than an average rating from me. And this entire series is about, was this the last one? This is the last one, but there is a 7th book. That's I remember talking about this. Okay, so this did wrap up the series very, very well, and I like that. That's why I bumped it up to 3.5 stars. Overall, it was an okay story. There is a 7th book in the series, but it's not part of the original storyline. So the whole premise of this series, if you have been watching my vlogs and hearing me talk about it for a while, is that these are a special elite team who work for the government. They are the Canine Unit, and there is a senator's son was killed, and in the very first book. So all the books have kind of had this overarching storyline that have woven through them, and this was the last book, and it wrapped up a lot of things, and it was quite good. So there is a 7th book, but it's this team, but it's some of the other characters that you met in this series, and it's a Christmas themed novel. So it sounds really cute, but it's not part of the original plot line that wove through the first 6 books. The next one that I finished was Promise Canyon by Robin Carr, another contemporary romance novel, book number 11 in the Virgin River series. This was narrated on audio by Therese Plummer. It was published in 2010. Average rating of 4.12 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars, excuse me. I like this one. What I like about this series, now this is only the first one that I've read in the Virgin River series, and it reminds me a lot of the Ransom Canyon series by Jodie Thomas, where you have different storylines happening within the same book. But in the Ransom Canyon series, she actually gives you the different plot lines on if you read the back of the book, you kind of find out the different plot lines. In this one, you don't. But the main story is about two people who are both of Native American descent. And they're from different cultures. I'm not sure exactly what word to use there. What word is politically correct? I apologize for my ignorance with that one. But they meet. He's the new vet in town, and she's delivering feed to to the ranch that he works at. And of course, they develop a relationship. It's really cute. It's a very sweet story. It did get hot and spicy. Not too spicy, but it does get into that. Yeah, I enjoyed it. 3.5 stars. I do actually plan one of my goals for 2019 in my Stacking the Series challenge that I will be doing again next year. This is one of the books. This is one of the series that I want to start from the beginning and work my way back up to book number 11. The next one that I read was The Mavericks Christmas to Remember by Christy Jeffries, another contemporary romance novel. Book number 5 in the Montana Mavericks, The Lonely Hearts Ranch. Harlequin Special Edition number 2653. This was published this year in 2018. Average rating of 4.10 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. It was super cute. It was about a woman who one day while she's working, she's up on a ladder, and she's pulling something off the ladder, and she falls and she hits her head. And there's a man who had just come into the office. When she opens her eyes and she sees him, she believes that he's her fiance, although the two of them have never met before. So in order to kind of keep her mentally stable and not give her too big of a shock, he kind of goes along with it, and then of course the romance goes from there. It was super adorable. I thoroughly enjoyed this one, and I absolutely recommend it. The next one that I finished was The Christmas Sisters by Sarah Morgan. This is another chick-lit this is a chick-lit women's fiction novel. It was published this year in 2018. Average rating of 4.38 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 5 stars. I loved this book. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It's a little bit outside of what I usually read from Sarah Morgan, who does more pretty normal contemporary romance novels. And this one is about three sisters whose lives are very different, and they end up going home to Scotland for Christmas and kind of their trials and tribulations. For the brief, brief explanation about what the book's about, that's it. I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was super sweet, and I absolutely recommend it. I know I've got one of my viewers said that they're reading it now, and they're liking it, but they're not loving it. It might not be for everybody, but I really, really enjoyed it. Next up, The Secret at Redgate Farm by Carolyn Keene. This is a mystery novel. It is Nancy Drew, number 6, published originally in 1931. Average rating of 3.89 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars. This one was entertaining. So Nancy and her friends, Bess and George, end up staying at this farm, the Redgate Farm. And there's a cult on the property, and they're doing some weird things, and it turns out there's counterfeiters and all these things. It's a Nancy Drew novel. This one was a lot of fun, very true to its time period in 1931, but these are still really entertaining to read, and I'm really enjoying reading back through this series. Next up, You Had Me at Cowboy by Janine Martz. This is another contemporary romance novel. Book number 2 in the Cowboys of Credence series. This one was published in 2018. It has an average rating of 4.06 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 4 stars. This was a NetGalley read, and I really enjoyed it. This is about a woman who, in order to keep her job, is kind of going undercover to get information about this hockey player by the name of Rock and his new wife. They were in the first book. He's very, very famous, and the public wants more information on their romance and on their wedding and things like that. So she kind of, starts making, friends with this guy's brother. And the two of them end up developing a relationship. And of course, when the truth comes out, he's questioning, do you like me because you like me, or because of what, how I can get you, how you're getting information about my brother, kind of an idea. There's also this other side, sort of a side plot about our main character's grandmother, who had to go to a loan shark to get money. And that part of it, there's some, a little bit scary, a little bit funny parts. I really enjoyed this one, and I'm looking forward to going back and reading the first book. Next up, A Tall, Dark Cowboy Christmas by Maisie Yates. Another contemporary romance. Book number 4 in the Gold Valley series. This was narrated on audio by Susan Elise Freeman. Published in 2018. Average rating of 4.10 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. This was Grant's story. If you have been reading through the Gold Valley series, he has a kind of a tragic backstory where he married his high school sweetheart because she was dying. And, and then he sort of became, because news outlets picked up on this, that at the age of 18 he married this girl because she was dying. News outlets picked up on it, and he became kind of like this mini celebrity because of it. Like, oh, look at how wonderful he is and what he did. And he hates it. He hates being felt sorry for. He hates, being acknowledged for a decision that, should have been very private in a way. And he is taken to drinking and keeping to himself. And then he meets McKenna. And, the two of them are absolutely perfect together. This was a very spicy book. I really, really enjoyed it. I do so love Maisie Yates. This series is fantastic. It's small town. And yeah, I absolutely recommend it. The next one I finished is also part of the Gold Valley series, and that is Snowed In with the Cowboy by Maisie Yates. Contemporary romance, of course. Book 3.5 in the Gold Valley series. So this one actually comes before Tall Dark Cowboy Christmas. But if you get Tall Dark Cowboy Christmas on ebook, on audiobook, or in a print book, this short novella is included at the end. So that's why I read it afterward. And again, narrated by Susan Elise Freeman, published in 2018. It has an average rating of 4.01 stars on it. I gave it 3.5 stars. I like this one. There is a taboo type romance in this one because the romance is actually between two step siblings. They were not raised together as children. They met when she was 12 and he would have been 16 or 17 years old, I guess. He's a few years older than she is. And then his father passed away, so legally, I don't know whether or not they'd still be considered to be siblings or step-siblings. But anyway, a romance ensues between the two of them. My issue with this, why it didn't get 4 stars, was because this absolutely could have worked as a full-length novel. There's a lot that could have been delved into. I felt the ending was rushed, as it is a lot of the times with novellas. because this is only like 50 pages long, but it was still really enjoyable. And you know, if you're reading through the Gold Valley series, I absolutely recommend that you go ahead and pick this one up. Next up, Redeemed by the Cowgirl by Silver James. This is another contemporary romance. Book number 5 in the Red Dirt Royalty series, Harlequin Desire novel 2507. Published in 2017, this has an average rating of 4.12 stars on Goodreads. I only gave it 3 stars. As I explained in some of my vlogs, I think I'm a little bit over this series. I loved this series at the beginning and I thought it was great. But my bigger issues, and this is going to sound weird, is that the series is about 5 brothers, and this is a prevalent theme within contemporary romance. You know, you get a family or a small town or a group of siblings or a group of cousins or whatever, and they each get their own story, kind of an idea. That's fine, and I like that. I think that's a lot of fun because you get to, sorry, Gorn's complaining as usual. Okay, he totally just yawned and whined at the same time. So anyway, sorry guys. So anyway, we don't beat him, I swear. Garrett's actually petting him right now. So anyway, all 5 of the brothers, their names all start with the same letter of the alphabet, and it's really annoying to read, really annoying. And I have to admit, this is very much an alpha male. These are alpha male type stories, and that's not generally my favorite thing to read about. The guys can tend to be a little jerky and mean and whatever, so you know, it's not, yeah, I didn't love this one. The next one that I finished was Mutts and Mistletoe by Natalie Cox. This is another chick lit women's fiction novel. Published in 2018, average rating of 4.02 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 4 stars. I loved this book as well. Oh my gosh. This I picked up for fun because I wasn't too sure, is this one I'm going to enjoy? But I don't think my library had a copy, or if they did, I couldn't get it. So I actually bought a physical copy of this, and I'm so glad I did. This is about a woman by the name of Charlie. And it's right before Christmas, and she's kind of very bah humbug, very Scrooge. Her boyfriend just broke up with her. They've been together like 4 years. And then she's in her apartment sleeping one night, and the apartment above her, the gentleman in the apartment above her, his stove, like his gas stove, explodes. So she ends up in the hospital. So her mother's worried about her. So her cousin shows up to take her to the country. They live in London, England. And her cousin goes to take her to the country. And her cousin runs a canine hotel of sorts. So then the cousin ends up taking off. I don't want to give too much away, but the cousin ends up having to leave and leaves Charlie in charge. So there she is, someone who doesn't even really like dogs, and she's kind of babysitting these dogs over the Christmas. And a romance ensues between her and the vet. It's really adorable. If you love dogs and you love the holidays, definitely read this book. I really think that you'd really enjoy it. Next up, we have Christmas Joy by Nancy Ningle, another contemporary romance. This was narrated on audio by Kristen Cablini, I believe. Published in 2018, average rating of 3.97 stars on Goodreads. I gave this one 4 stars. This is also a movie on the Hallmark Channel this year, and it's about a woman who has a very high-powered marketing type job in Washington, D.C., and then she finds out that her aunt fell and broke her ankle. So she goes back, our main character's name is Joy. She goes back to this small town in, I think it's either North or South Carolina, I can't remember. And she looks after her aunt for the, while she gets better and helps look after her farm. And of course, a relationship ensues between her and a local guy. It's really, really cute, absolutely adorable, perfect book to put you in the Christmas spirit. The next book we have is Rebel with a Heart, and this is by Carol Arns. This is a historical romance American West novel. It is Harlequin Historical number 1160, published originally in 2013. It has an average rating of 3.80 stars on Goodreads, and I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. The premise of this one was so much fun. It's about 2 people who knew each other when they were kids, and the last time they saw each other was when they were 12, and her family moved them away. Then they run into each other, and he recognizes her right away because she hasn't changed. She grew up, but, he's actually in disguise because he is trying to get more information on a local insane asylum, essentially. He believes that there are people there being held against their will, and the people who are actually there legitimately are being treated poorly. They're not getting proper medical care. They're not being properly fed or kept warm. So I really like that premise of it, that I just found that very, very interesting, especially for the time period. She is kind of in town because her sister has been taken to this place, and she's trying to break her sister out because her sister doesn't belong in there. She is one of the people being held against her will. So, really great story. I highly enjoyed it, and I absolutely recommend it. Next up, A Lawman's Justice by Dolores Fawson. This is a romantic suspense novel. It is book number 8, the 8th and final book in the Sweetwater Ranch series. Harlequin Intrigue number 1581. This was narrated on audio by Adam Werner. Published originally in 2015. As an average rating of 4.25 stars on Goodreads, I gave it 4 stars. This one was really good. It was a great finishing off of the series. I don't want to talk too much about it because I don't want to give too much away if you're interested in reading the Sweetwater Ranch series. Pretty much, the plot line for this entire these 8 books. It's about a woman by the name of Jewel who is accused of murdering this man 25 years ago. So she's older, and the main characters in these stories are her kids or her stepkids or their cousins or, you know, local sheriffs and stuff like that. And each story kind of delves in a little bit to what's going on, like as the case kind of progresses. And then this book, of course, wraps everything up. So I don't want to give too much away. Dolores Fawson does romantic suspense fantastic. Like, she does an amazing job at writing these books, and I really, really enjoy them. And I absolutely recommend that you check out this series. Sorry, the cat is crying because the light from the tablet, and I'm not making it go enough, and he's getting upset. Maybe Garrett should play with him. But anyway, the next book that I finished, I can't help it, it's the light in here. The next book that I finished was Best of Luck by Kate Clayborn. This is a contemporary romance novel. It is book number 3 in the Chance of a Lifetime series. Published originally in 2018. Average rating of 4.51 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3.5 stars. This was another NetGalley read, and unfortunately I didn't love this one as much as I wanted to. There were some things at the beginning with the writing that really kind of threw me off. And I talked about this in my, when I talked about this book in my weekly reads, or my weekly reading vlogs. Like, I'd be reading a sentence and I'd be like, wait, how did we get here? Like, all of a sudden, the one that sticks out in my mind the most, and I mentioned this one in one of my vlogs, is she's talking about a shirt made of hair. Like, I'm not kidding. And, like, if I had context to it, it wouldn't be bad. But it came out of nowhere. And then she's having this internal monologue about where she could buy such a thing. And I just thought, I don't understand where this came from. So anyway, yeah, but the book did get better. That's why I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. The 2 main characters are absolutely fantastic. They both have great backstories, very interesting backstories. And the 2 of them work so, so well together. I do plan on going back and reading books 1 and 2 in this series. So I do recommend it, and maybe it was just me because, I mean, obviously this book has an average rating of 4.5 stars on Goodreads, so it must just be me. Maybe I was, it was the wrong time for me to write. I don't know. I just found some of it very confusing at the beginning. The second last book I have here is Claiming the Cowgirl's Baby by Silver James, another contemporary romance novel. This is Red Dirt Royalty book number 6. Harlequin Desire novel number 2532, published in 2017, and it has an average rating of 4.16 stars on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars. This one was an atypical romance novel, much like I talked about the last book in the Red Dirt Royalty series. I had the same problem with this one, with all the characters having the same name. But this one, the first 5 books were about the 5 brothers. This one is about the illegitimate son, who is like the half-brother to these other brothers. And there is a accidental pregnancy, and, I didn't love it. I liked it, but I didn't love it. So, I really don't have a lot of thoughts on it. It was entertaining enough, but it didn't blow me away. And the last book that I finished this month was one of my favorites, and that is Bellevue by David Oshinsky. This is the second time I've read this one. It was a reread. I read this for Nonfiction November, and this is subtitled 3 Centuries of Medicine and Mayhem at America's Most Storied Hospital. So this is a nonfiction historical. It was narrated on audio by Fred Sanders, published originally in 2016. Average rating on Goodreads of 4.25 stars, and I gave this one 5 stars again. This is literally, as it says, it is the history of Bellevue Hospital in New York City. I think the first public hospital in the U.S. And it was highly entertaining if you are into medical history at all. Some of the things that they talked about were the first ambulances that, Bellevue created, kind of the first ambulance service. about different medical procedures that were done, you know, when they started using ether in surgeries and what happened before they had any kind of anesthetic during surgery, and it was horrible. And, you know, different diseases and how, you know, some of these, like the influenza cases and then AIDS in the 80s and stuff like that, and how it affected and changed the hospital. You know, absolutely fascinating. I really, really enjoyed it, and I absolutely recommend it if, again, you are into any kind of medical history at all. So anyway, guys, that is it for this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know in the comments below. Have you read any of the books that I talked about, and what did you think about them? Or what was your favorite book that you read in November? I'd love to know. And until my next video, guys, take care and happy reading. Bye, guys.